What's up, guys? It's Coach Croc coming back to you with another great episode of Meeting of the Minds. Today we have the Director of Baseball Operations at USA Baseball, Mr. Carter Hicks. How you doing today, Carter?
Awesome, man. Appreciate you having me on today.
I really appreciate you taking out the time of your busy schedule to talk a little baseball. How's things going with USA Baseball at this point?
We're great, man. We're just excited to, like everyone else, to get back on the field and get back to playing. And we're definitely looking forward to kind of just providing opportunities to get back to letting kids do what they love to do. And so I think with us, just seeing the big leaguers get back out there, and we have our plans in place and are planning to return to the field here in the next 10 days to 2 weeks or so. And so we're looking forward to it, man. Things are definitely a lot different now than they were, and I'm sure we'll dive into this a little bit, but the plans that we had as an organization for 2020 obviously have been derailed a little bit, but that can be said for everyone across the board. So we're not any different than anyone else in that regard. But no, like I said, we're ready to get going, and we're excited to get back to playing baseball.
Man, that's great. And with your title, Director of Baseball Operations, man, this sounds deep. Tell me what all you do in that aspect.
Yeah, so it probably sounds deeper than it is, but in my role, I have I guess, fortunately have the ability to work with a bunch of our programs. And so, first and foremost, I head up and run the National High School Invitational, which is a 16-team championship tournament we hold at our National Training Complex in Cary. And each year we invite 16 in our estimation, of the top high school baseball programs to our complex, and we crown a champion at the end. Obviously, there's not a quote unquote national championship type event for high school baseball. And so this event aims to try to kind of bridge that gap. And so that's always for us sometime around the last week in March, early April timeframe. I think we just got off this past year, and we had, I think, 6 first round picks in this past year's draft were
Wow.
were participants of the NHSI. So that's a really big ticket item for us. Obviously, draws a lot of interest from the pro scouting community. There's always some college scouting interest in there, and what I like to always say, it's really a collection and a celebration of high school baseball. And so we try to make sure that we're touching all those corners there when we're coming up with that event. And it's this year, 2020, was supposed to be our 10th, or our 9th edition of that. Obviously got derailed from a COVID, but then also I have the fortunately, I work with a lot of our other national teams as well. So primarily with our older age groups. So, I'll do a lot with our 16U, our 17U development programs, our 18U national team, and then also work really closely with Eric Campbell, who's our general manager of national teams, with our college national team as well as with our professional national team. And so I've been really afforded some really, really great opportunities, have made a lot of really great connections, and lifelong, mentors and friends and whatnot here in my 2 years. I guess coming up on 2 years here with USA Baseball. And so, have been able to take a lot from all those experiences. And, the unique thing is each of them are a little different, and
Right.
we'll go to Asia with a team, and that experience is going to be completely different than when we go to Latin America. And it's different than when we go to Mexico. And so it's really unique, because each day you come with a new challenge, because no day, no trip, no team is the same. And we just get to see that, on a much more kind of granular level at multiple times throughout a year. Sometimes at college or high school, no team's the same, but you're also stuck with that team, quote unquote, for a year. But with us, we get to see touch so many players, and have so many different teams over the course of a summer, that it's a unique opportunity.
That's very cool. With the NHSI, tell me about what you specifically do. I mean, are you setting out the invites? Are you lining the field? How does that work out?
Yeah, so it's a lot more kind of on the team operation, the baseball operation, kind of tournament operation side. So usually that time frame, we start identifying teams so for the 2021 National High School Invitational, we're identifying teams 12, 14, 16 months in advance. And so, there's some projection going on there. Obviously, we're on the phone constantly with high school coaches and scouts and different connections that we have across the country of, hey, what does this school have, or what type of players do they have, or how are they run, and you know, we kind of run the gamut when it comes to evaluating these teams. But ultimately, yeah, it's a pretty I don't want to say drawn out process, but we do really try to get ahead of it. And so there is a lot of projection that kind of goes into it. And so, we usually have our teams locked up, I would say 8 to 10 months in advance at the very minimum. And then after that, it's working with them through the logistics. Part of the NHSI, we host all 16 teams, and so it's a matter of making sure that their hotels are lined up and that the scouting community has the information that they need and that the coaches have the information that they need. And then ultimately, we get to the first day of the tournament and it's, hey, let's play ball. Let's,
Oh yeah.
we once first pitch happens, that's the easiest part of it, right? Because once you get between the lines, baseball is baseball, and so there's a lot more that goes into it before that plays a lot more into it. That's kind of behind the scenes, but once we get to opening day, first day of games, it kind of runs itself at that point.
That's cool. It's probably a logistical nightmare to get 16 teams coordinated to get at a hotel and all that good stuff. And USA Baseball splits the bill. Nobody has to pay anything.
So there is a fee that's paid, but what we try to do is we try to make it as hands off for the coaches as possible. And so, from the time that they touch down at the Raleigh-Durham Airport here in North Carolina to the time that they leave, we're as hospitable with any possible thing that they can possibly need, right? If it's, we have everything from, take care of everything related to baseball. There's different, obviously study halls are factored into there because of school and other obligations like that. And, we try to meet every school where they're at, every program where they're at, and address any particular needs. Sometimes that there's teams that'll come in, they're on spring break, and so they're looking more into the sightseeing. And so we're lining up, in this area where we have four big time universities within an hour and a half drive. And so we might be helping them try to line up college tours if they want to, run down to Chapel Hill and check out Carolina, or run to Durham and check out Duke, or, 2 hours up the road, check out Wake Forest, helping them line that up. And at the same time, there's schools that are going to be actually missing class. And so we're helping them, whether it's securing study hall space and allowing them time where they can, do this kind of remote learning that we've become so accustomed to here, trying to help them, just try to cater to whatever need they have. And so, what I always tell the coaches, is once you get here, the only thing you need to worry about is baseball, because we want to make sure that we're able to handle anything that comes up. It's all you're worried about is the 4 games you play over the course of 4 days. And ultimately, come 9 o'clock on Saturday night, you're walking out of our national training complex with the championship trophy.
Right. And an experience. I mean, it sounds like they're treated like royalty, and I've been to the facility. It's amazing, beautiful. Let me ask you about North Carolina in general. Is it standard that you have a couple of those teams there, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we always have one host school from North Carolina, and so that's something for us. It's really, really important. And it's something where we have a lot of talent here in this state, baseball wise as well. So we're able, we always have a representative. In 2018, the North Carolina school went all the way to the championship game, and lost in the championship game, which was the farthest North Carolina school had advanced. But I think if you look back at the first 8 years of this thing, the North Carolina schools have a winning record, which is definitely something to write home about, just because of the quality of teams and the level of program that we have the ability to bring in. And so, yeah, there's always a North Carolina team. They're always competitive. They always kind of have a little chip on their shoulder, so to speak, because it's home turf for them a little bit. We have 15 schools flying in to play in this event, and they're like, hey, our school's right down the street. Like, this is normal for us. So no, it's always fun. It makes for a unique atmosphere.
If you remember, who was the team in 18 that went that far? Do you recall?
18, it was Green Hope High School.
Green
So
Hope?
they're a really local team out of Cary here. They had a
right behind you guys, right?
Right. First round pick Jordan Adams of the Angels. They also had, at that time, it was a sophomore left-handed pitcher, Liam Norris, who was just taken by the Arizona Diamondbacks in this past year's draft. So they had two really big-time players there, and then had some other really complimentary pieces. I know they had a infielder that's at North Carolina State right now. They also had a freshman who didn't play much for him then, but's committed to East Carolina. He's a senior this year as well. So they had some really, really big pieces out there.
A lot of talent, a lot of talent. All right. So speaking of talent, you would imagine that having a job at USA Baseball, you obviously love baseball. Can you tell me a little bit about your background? Like, I'm
Yeah,
sure
yeah. So for me, just like kind of everyone else, growing up, played every sport under the sun, and just loved the atmosphere, being with the team and the competition, and working towards a common goal. For me, kind of, gravitated towards baseball at an earlier age, and kind of going through high school. Always just like every kid, right? Had the aspirations of, hey, I'm gonna either play in the major leagues or I'm gonna be the GM of the Yankees, right? Because those are the only two career paths that you think baseball is a thing, right? And so was fortunate enough, had the opportunity to play Division III baseball my freshman year at Guilford College here in Greensboro, North Carolina, and actually there was kind of the first time that I realized that there's more to working in sports than on the field or being the GM of the Yankees, right? Because everyone would love to be the general manager of a big league club, but at the same time, there's a reason there's only 30 of those jobs out there. And so for me, it was kind of the first time that I really was exposed to kind of the other opportunities in sports. So I was actually working in our sports information department, and I covered football and basketball and all these other random sports that I'd always known about, but being then kind of opened my eyes. And so after that freshman year, I had the opportunity, and I transferred to UNC, and so had the pleasure of working with Coach Fox and Coach Forbes and with the Carolina baseball program for my 3 years, and that I was there, and really, it was a huge thanks, and where I am today is because of them that would had the opportunity to do a lot of our kind of video work for the program, whether it was advanced scouting stuff, whether it was Coach Forbes had just been on the road for recruiting down in Georgia for 10 days, and he had all this video on his phone, and how can we use that to our advantage recruiting wise? Obviously, as our time went on, we got a lot more into the analytics side. We're using Rapsodo, we're using TrackMan, Synergy, kind of all these other technologies that are popping up there. And so, working with Coach Forbes and Coach Woodard and all of our staff there really kind of helped me get into this position. And then ultimately, it was through those connections that I kind of got looped in with Eric Campbell at USA Baseball. And so started as an intern with the college national team, I guess. So I graduated in 2018, coming off our College World Series appearance, got off the plane in Omaha, went to the USA offices the next day to start my internship with Eric. And so I think we got off the plane on Friday. I was in the office on a Saturday for my first day, welcome to the job. And then we had, I guess it was, 48 players. We had Coach Paul Maneri, we had Jim Hendry, we had Cliff Godwin, we had Brian O'Connor all coming in that Sunday to start the college national team tour. And so, it was almost a, trial by fire type thing. And it was, hey, welcome to the show. Let's get going. And by the way, you have 24 hours until all these people are coming into Cary. So,
you got some big time baseball coaches coming to see you, right?
Right. And so, and for me, I'd kind of been exposed to that. So it's just trying to provide them everything they needed, right? Because what we were trying to do was incredibly difficult. We had 48 of the best college players across the country, and we were going to have them for probably 5 days. And then ultimately we had to cut 20 of them because we were only going to be able to take 28 of them. And so just making sure that they had all the resources they need, kind of running the operations of the program along with Eric, whether it's, making sure that we're getting all these kids from the airport to the hotels, whether it's you got to feed them, you got to gear them up, and, the whole gamut of things. And so, and it was a really, really eye-opening opportunity that was, really influential for me. And so that summer we actually, the way the schedule kind of broke down for the college national team, for those that aren't as familiar with it, we generally play 2 or 3 friendship series, exhibition type series with an international opponent. So we hosted the Chinese Taipei Federation, and we also hosted Japan here in North Carolina, and down kind of a southeast type swing, and then we flew to Cuba, and we actually played the Cuban national team down in Havana for a 5-game set, which was an absolutely incredible experience.
It sounds like baseball has really given you so many blessings, right?
For sure. I definitely, very fortunate and count the blessings each day of just the opportunities I've been afforded, and just so blessed to be in this position to have some of these opportunities, and just hope that I'm able to kind of pay it forward. And whether it's providing opportunities for other people, whether it's just a simple say thank you to someone, right? I find myself nowadays, I'm on the phone with someone for 30 minutes, and I don't even know where time went, but just hey, I appreciate your time, just stuff like that, just to try to pay it forward a little bit. And the game knows, and right, the game always knows, and so what goes around comes around. I've always kind of believed that, and so just doing what I can to try to pay it forward for the next group of people.
That's awesome. That is awesome. 4 mindset principles. The first thing we start off with is I'm thankful for the opportunity to compete, no matter what sport. That attitude of gratitude is simply a must. I mean, if you're going to be successful, you have to have that attitude of gratitude. So I'm glad you touched on that. Let's talk about mentality. You've been around the game such a long time at a high level. We've seen a lot of big time guys come out of USA baseball in the last few years. Have you seen people have some, let's call them head cases? Have you seen that in your baseball career?
Yeah, I think you see it all the time, and sometimes you kind of run the spectrum, and you see the guy who doesn't have a lot of talent, but he's got it all figured out up top, and so obviously he's going to be a little better. And at the same time, you have the most supremely talented baseball player there is, but literally his head is all over the place, and so his talent's not going to play up to that. So we see it all the time. It's not, it can be a difficult thing just because of how strong the mind is, and right, and it's always a matter of kind of controlling that part, and it's obviously easier said than done. But ultimately, right, it's being able to kind of use some of these experiences you've had to ultimately make you mentally stronger is kind of the buzzword, I guess, but ultimately preparing yourself for any possible thing that can happen, right? And so you just try to pride yourself on preparation, and not just plan A, B, C, but what happens when plan A turns into plan F that goes back to plan B that turns into plan Y. So, making sure sometimes, a mentally weak guy is going to kind of lose himself there because he's not able to take that and adjust on the fly. And, the guys that are prepared, and that's kind of what we see, and you see it on a big league level, those guys are where they're at because of their preparedness and being able that nothing really phases them because they prepared for every possible scenario that they could see. And so I think we see that all the time. And it can be a big difference maker, and it can be something that's a separator, and you can tell the guys who are really bought in and are ready to go and locked and loaded every day, and you can tell the guys that are just showing up because they think they have to. Mom dropped them off. Dad thinks they should do it. It's a separator. It really is.
Right. And we always break it down in like the last 3 calls. The last 3 calls I've had this week have all talked about Yogi Berra, so we'll get it out there. What percent of the sport do you feel is mental? If you could get,
I think the classic, 90% mental, the other half's physical. I mean, I think I got to go with him on that. I mean, because of just how, again, and I don't want to harp on it too much, but how strong the mind is that, if you set your mind set up to do something, 9 times out of 10, you're going to do it. And whether that's, hey, don't strike out. Your mind doesn't hear don't. Your mind hears strike out.
right, yeah.
So stuff like that is, trying to self-teach yourself that instead of saying, hey, don't strike out, say hit the ball hard, something like that. I think it all kind of ties into that same thing. But you definitely, the physical parts obviously play. I mean, I think the mental part takes you where you want to go, but you're not going to get there if you don't have the physical tools.
No doubt about it. But you would probably agree with this, I would hope, that both can be developed, right? The mental and the physical aspect.
100%. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Obviously, we all know the physical ways of developing stuff like that. I think what's becoming more and more common, and I think it's good to see, and you see it on the big league level, and you see it in the minor league player development departments, it's the mental skills coaches that are becoming so prevalent nowadays. I think that's huge. Even at USA Baseball, we have through our prospect development pipeline, we have ways that we can objectively measure those types of things. Whether we're measuring, memory or brain skills or brain speed and stuff like that. That kind of gives you a little more objective number, objective target, so to speak, of some of these mental things. You're on the field and just give you an example off the top of my head, shortstop, and it's a line drive to his backhand side, and he can't get there. Well, is that a physical thing? Is that a mental thing? It could be both ways. Maybe he's not actually quick enough to do it. At the same time, some of these tests that's through this, through the PDP can tell that maybe his brain speed's not quite up to par, and so that it's a physical trait, but it's more of a mental approach, so to speak, and in a different roundabout kind of way. But yeah, I mean, I think 100% they can both be trained, and I think it's definitely a welcome thing nowadays. It's that mental training is becoming so prevalent.
No doubt. So being around such high caliber athletes, do you ever get to hear them talk about, maybe some of their processes like visualization, meditation, praying, whatever, or just anything like that? Have you had those conversations?
Yeah. So it's funny. So, like I said, I work with our older age groups, and so primarily the youngest group that I usually work with is right around 16 years old, and then was with our Premier 12 Olympic qualifying team back in the fall, and they're no different than anyone else, right? I'll talk with a 16-year-old who, he's just hopping in the box and swinging the bat and happens to be good at it. And there's also guys that are mature beyond their years and have an approach and know what they're doing in a situation and are able to, flush the last pitch and, play the one pitch at a time and all that stuff. And I think it's natural to think that as a guy gets older and, he's in pro ball now and, he's got to figure it out. But they don't, right? They don't always have it figured out, because just like there's that kid at 16 years old, there's guys that are in the minor leagues at high levels of the minor leagues, and they're getting in the box and, hey, what'd you do with that at bat? Well, honestly, I just closed my eyes and swung the bat and I hit the ball 400 feet. Well, must be nice, but it's obviously not common. But you hear it all. I think. The guys that always make it the farthest are the ones that have approach, are able to, the other buzzword, one pitch at a time, are able to kind of, baseball's such a difficult game. So there's no need to make it harder than it is, because it's already the hardest game there is. And, you can fail 7.5 times, and you're a really, really good player. So, I think that positive self-talk, that positive interaction, whether it's coach to player, whether it's player to player, whether it's player to self, or even parent to player, is so huge.
Absolutely. That's great. That's good stuff. Hardest game in the world. I mean, I can agree with that, man. You go up there and go for 20, and then you get the next 10 hits, and you're still, everybody's loving you, right?
Right.
So failure is such a big thing in baseball. You have to know how to deal with it, and some of the naturally talented athletes have a very difficult time doing that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that plays into human nature, and I think baseball is the most applicable to life. It's the same type of way. There's so many parallels you can draw that it definitely serves you well whether you're in or out of the game. So no, I totally agree.
Right. Let me pause for 1 second because I feel like he's crying. I'll be right back. You okay with that?
All right. Yep, perfect.
Get you some water. I'll be right back.
No worries.
Sorry about that. There's a false alarm. Nowhere near being moving. He was like,
he's out.
Well, Maddox, I got him after.
There you go.
Former player, man. All right, it's positive self-talk. I mean, have you ever talked to anybody about the language they use and their body language and the words they're using that could pretty much dictate how you're going to perform? Because you said it earlier. 9 times out of 10, if you put your mind to something, you're going to do it. And if you're saying, I don't want to strike out, all you're going to hear is strike out. So
right.
How do you get that self-talk right?
Yeah, I think that's, kind of the golden question that, if we had the answer for it, it would solve everyone's issues. I think it's, really, really individual. And I don't think there's a one, standard approach that we can take. And, it's a tried and true method and it works for everyone. I think it's a lot of, experimentation and you kind of have to do it for yourselves. And to be honest, I'm not even sure if how much a coach or a parent or someone like that can help you, just because it is so individualized. And so I think that's part of the reason, it does take until the guys in, 22, 23, 24 sometimes to figure it out. Because you do kind of have to try different things and see what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and what keywords, lock you back in when you are out of sync, or what kind of mental cues you can personally use. I think obviously coaches and parents are able to kind of provide, different suggestions and things that they've seen to work in the past. But, it would be naive to think that's going to work for everyone just because it works for someone. So, I think it's very, very individualized. And I think you just have to experiment on your own to kind of see what clicks for you.
Right, and that's totally true. Everybody is different, and everybody learns a different way.
Right.
With us as a mindset coach, what's great about us is we're gonna cater your program to you, and give you processes. We're not gonna give you the answer. You have to figure out the answer.
Right.
At least you have some processes: deep breathing, reset buttons. What else we got? Anchors. We've got switches. All these key terms. I'm saying, do they ring a bell to you? Do they kind of stick out?
100%. And I wholeheartedly agree with that, because, if it's the bottom of the ninth inning and you're on the mound, the bases are loaded and you're up one run, and if you give up a hit and you guys lose the game, like, hey, mom and dad aren't out there at that point to help you, snap out of your little funk. So it's up to you to rely on some of those routines and rely on some of those methods that you've, coerced yourself, and to be able to kind of snap out of it. It's something where, as you get older, obviously there's going to be less people there to hold your hand, and so you ultimately have to look out for yourself and see what works for you. And so, yeah, I think having those methods and having those kind of routines and philosophies in place allow you to rest on that foundation of knowing that, I don't know what's going to happen today, but I'm prepared for whatever does.
Right, and that circles you back to your word, preparedness. I mean, you got to be ready, and I think having an action plan, nutrition, your diet, your exercise, your strength, your mental. I mean, if you have all these processes in place, you're going to be able to be successful in life, school, and sport. It doesn't matter where you're at.
Exactly. Well, the one thing I'll add on to that too, you do all those things in place and you give it everything you have, and then maybe it comes up short. Well, hey, that's all right. That's fine. But at least you didn't leave any stone unturned, and you provided yourself the best opportunity for you and your team to succeed that day. And sometimes, hopefully more times than it doesn't, it does work. But if it doesn't, that's fine. Go back to the drawing board and get better and try again.
Yeah. You look at Abraham Lincoln. If we read his rap sheet, you'd think, who's this loser? And then bam, here's Abraham Lincoln. All the things he failed at, Thomas Edison, all these guys that failed and failed and failed. And baseball is such that game. One of my good friends, Dr. Rob Gilbert, I don't know if he's a friend, he's somebody I listen to every day. It's a success hotline, and we do that with our athletes. They get this message every day. He talks about it. Winners lose more than losers lose.
Right.
Babe Ruth struck out a lot. I mean,
Yep.
People in baseball are gonna mess up. They're gonna fail. They have to be able to get back to the present moment. And we find that when you're living in the past, nothing good can happen in your future.
Yep.
And that's something we like to talk about all the time. Well, I know you're a busy man. Is there any last message you kind of want to leave us with before we get out of here today? Anything you want to end on? Mindset, life, or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we touched on this a little bit before we went live, and, it's a little different message now that we've been kind of in this quarantine for the last 4 months or so, but just making sure that we're using every day to our advantage. And, no one's going to come into this quarantine back in March the same as they are when they leave it, whenever we're able to kind of get out of this thing, right? So, you're either going to be better or you're going to be worse, because you're not going to stay the same. If you do stay the same, you're inherently going to be worse because everyone else is jumping ahead. So, I think nowadays, players are so fortunate with all the resources that are out there, whether it's, yourself or podcasts that are out there, what I always say, your best resource is free. Open up the internet, although it can be dangerous some points, if you get down a wrong rabbit hole, but use the internet and make sure that we're, at some points use conflicting thought processes, because ultimately the only way you're going to develop your own process and your own thoughts is if you understand the other side of it. So, there's so many resources out there. There's so many people that want to see you succeed. I think making sure that you're aligning yourselves with people and coaches and just surround yourself with people that have the same goals for you. What I always tell our teams, one of the lasting kind of messages we leave them is, I firmly believe that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so what I always tell them, they're coming to something with us, and they're probably some of the best people, best players, at least talent wise. What I always tell them is you need to surround yourself with 5 people who are better people than you, so that you can improve in that regard. I said you also need, and this is for some of the people players we have a little more difficult, but you need to also surround yourself with 5 players that are better than you, because ultimately you're going to rise to the level of the competition. I firmly believe that, and so if you're surrounding yourself with 5 people who are way worse than you are, you're going to get comfortable, and you're going to say that, I don't need to improve. I'm already the best, because it's all about kind of that mindset that you put yourselves in, and kind of, so that's the one thing I always challenge them. The other thing I challenge them to is, they'll come to one of our identification events. And you're trying to make a national team. You're at our 18 national team trials, and you're trying to make a national team. Well, yeah, of course you're going to run every ball hard. You're going to run those 4-2s, 4-3s down the lines. You're going to lay out and try to make a play in the out. Like, you're going to do everything you're supposed to do. But that's not the challenge, right? The challenge isn't making that team. The challenge is when you go home. What do you do when you go home? Because it's easy to play hard and to work hard and to come prepared every single day and locked in when you have to, because if you don't, you're going to get left behind. But the challenge is when you're better than everyone, and whether it's actually true, whatever the case may be, the challenge is bringing that same energy and that same effort every single day, because just because you work hard with us for 4 days, you go back home and your coach says you're the lazy one and you don't try hard and you don't run balls out and stuff like that. That's who you are. You're not the player that runs the 4-2s down the line. You're the player that doesn't run the ball out. And so, that's a challenge I always send home with them is surround yourself with people that are better than you. Surround yourself with players that are better than you. You never want to be the smartest guy in the room, type mindset. And then the other thing is, treat every day, treat every game, every practice, every workout like you're with the Team USA, like you're trying out for a national team, stuff like that, because that type of mindset is going to take you so much farther than complacency and thinking that you're the best because that's the only thing So just making sure that we're, keeping a wide range of people around us, looking at different thought processes and different things, so that we ultimately, whatever we decide our thoughts are, that we can stand by them and have a rationale for why we believe it, right or wrong.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Energy, effort, aggressiveness, attitude. We talk about that all the time as well. Those are things you can control.
Right.
You're going to do it, like you said, at the national tryout, and that's the only time you're going to do it. You can do that every day. And if you did that every day, what would happen? You really would be one of the best players on the planet.
Right.
And that is a challenge, bringing that to every endeavor, that perfect attitude, that super aggressive mentality, and putting it all together, just giving your best effort every time. Carter, I think it's been a great conversation. If there's anything we can do for you at Baseball Mindset for USA Baseball, or you in general, please don't hesitate. Let me know. And if you see any head cases on the ball field,
we'll pass them along. Awesome. Well, Chase, I appreciate the time, and to everyone out there, obviously, feel free to check out our website, USA Baseball. Get updates on our programs, our national teams. Obviously, have a bunch of resources on our USA Baseball Develops side, whether it's coaching resources, player resources. There's so many different resources we have on our website. Feel free to check it out, and I'll share my contact information with anyone if anyone wants to reach out that way as well. But no, really appreciate the time, and and keep doing what you're doing. It's definitely an important thing, and definitely there's a void that can be filled in that regard. So
absolutely. Hey, and then if they check out the website, they might find out that there's an internship and it could work for you.
exactly, yeah, we have an internship program every single year, so check out those opportunities when they're up there too.
Yeah, that's an awesome job. Hey, look, Carter, I appreciate it, and looking forward to talking to you again real soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Chase.
Take care, man. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Carter Hicks, man, great interview. Knocked it out of the park. I enjoyed it. Learned a lot about USA Baseball. I'm telling you, if you haven't been to the facility in Cary, you have got to go. Check out the website, like you said. The place is immaculate, and the best baseball players in the country gather there to play. It's Team USA, man. And in this culture we live in today, we got to be proud of something. So if you're a baseball player out there and you got what it takes to bring it, that attitude, that aggressiveness, that intensity, that energy every single day, go represent USA, man. We need that. And help change this world, because at this point, there's not a lot of hope out there. And baseball gives us hope. It gives us hope that people can come back together because you did as baseball players, and you're competing, and there's nothing like it. Carry it with you all your life. Hate to get long-winded, but I felt a little passionate about that today. If you need anything from me, follow me on Instagram. Check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Coach Croc 12, pretty much standard. And then, of course, our baseball mindset Instagram, winning mindset, wrestling mindset. No matter what you're into, we have specific content for you. It's going to help you discover your processes, just like Carter talked about. Everybody needs processes. Everybody needs an action plan. And we're going to help you cater that to your specific needs. That's what we do as mindset coaches. We're going to help give you that mental edge, and we're going to help you know that mindset makes a difference. And until next time, Coach Croc's out.